Chapter 62. More importantly, he had to find a way to clean up his reputation among his former college mates. Otherwise, how could he show off in front of his friends in the future after being humiliated by Alex twice? Just when he was pondering how to restore his dignity, there was a sudden commotion at the main entrance of the restaurant. The noise attracted everyone's attention and they looked towards the door. A group of youngsters with malicious looks barged into the restaurant. They had tattoos all over their limbs and body, holding baseball bats, galvanized water pipes, and the like in their hands. They didn't look like they were here for a meal at all. Everyone was extremely shocked upon the horrid sight, especially Noah and Scarlett, their eyes full of fear. A man with the visible scar on his face was obviously the head of the group. He stepped forward, scanned the hall, then pointed at Noah with an evil grin. "Boss, why didn't you come and say hi before the opening ceremony? Are we invisible to you?" Blood drained from Scarlett's face. She squeezed a bitter smile and said, "What? What do you want from us?" Before the opening, Scarlett heard that there were protection racketeers lurking in this neighborhood. The previous owner of this restaurant was said to have been harassed by these gangsters that he went bankrupt and had to sell the shop. Despite this, Scarlett decided to rent the place at a low price and manage it as she felt that these people wouldn't dare to be so pompous as to ask money from them in broad daylight. However, never did she expect these gangsters to appear at their opening ceremony. Scarface grinned. "If you want to do business here, you'd have to be on good terms with our boss, Alfred the Bear. We don't want much, just give us a 15% share of your profits and you'll be under our protection forever. You can just call us if anything happens in the future." Then, Scarface continued in a cold voice, "However, if you don't agree, I'm sorry to say that we'll make sure your restaurant won't be able to operate starting today." Noah and Scarlett sucked in a nervous breath upon hearing the fee. 15% share. It was a freaking daylight robbery, period. "I'll give you a minute to think about it." Suddenly, Bob saw it as a chance to make himself a hero. He stood up immediately and said, "Who's your boss?" Scarface grinned viciously. "Who are you? Why do I have to tell you that?" Bob sneered. "I'll tell you this, my father knows people from the legal forces and the underworld in Oris Hill. I'll call the boss of the developer and ask right now." Scarface's expression shifted a little. He looked at him cautiously and asked, "You know him?" "Of course," Bob shouted arrogantly, "get lost if you don't want trouble." Scarface frowned in agitation. "Well, if you can find someone whom I can talk to, I'll leave this place alone. But if you can't, I'll have your ass hooped right now." Scarlett glanced at Bob nervously and said, "Bob, please make the call, please." Bob smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry, I'll call the boss right now." Diamond Group had some projects here in the redevelopment zone, which was under Bob's father's jurisdiction. Hence, the head of the developer mingled frequently with his father, and that explained why he was familiar with the man too. Bob retrieved his phone, called a number, and said in an arrogant tone, "Mr. Jack, why are there a bunch of protection racketeers in the redevelopment zone? They even came to my friend's restaurant." The voice on the other end of the line stuttered and said, "Oh, Bob, what's going on?" "A friend of mine opened a restaurant in the redevelopment zone, and some gangsters have barged in to ask for a protection fee. I'd like to ask if you can handle it for me." The man on the other side of the line was silent for a moment before speaking in a low voice, "I'm sorry, Bob, it's not for me to handle those things you've mentioned. I'm in a meeting now, bye." Before Bob could say anything, the man on the other end ended the call. Bob was utterly stunned. What happened? Mr. Jack used to curry favor with his father in order to get more investment from Diamond Group. Why did he shut him up so quickly now? What Bob didn't know was that the news that his father was fired from Diamond Group had circulated throughout the business circle in Oris Hill.